Imagine building a city so advanced, so breathtaking, that it could hold 30,000 people in the middle of a desert, with running water, towering temples, and streets carved directly into rose-red cliffs. Now imagine that city vanishing so completely that the outside world forgot it existed for over 1,000 years. This is not fiction. This happened, and the story of how it was built and how it disappeared is one of the greatest mysteries in human history. This is Petra. In the next 10 minutes, you'll discover who really built Petra, how they managed to survive and thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth, why this civilization suddenly collapsed, and how a Swiss explorer stumbled upon it in 1812, completely by accident. Stay until the end, because the final mystery of Petra has never been fully solved. Most people think of Petra as a place, but Petra was a people first. The Nabataeans were a nomadic Arab tribe who, somewhere around the 4th century BC, made one of the most remarkable decisions in ancient history. They stopped wandering and started building. They chose a location that, on the surface, made no sense. A narrow canyon in the middle of the Arabian desert. Scorching heat, almost no rainfall, no natural resources. And yet, within 2 centuries, they turned that canyon into the most important trading hub in the ancient world. How? Because they understood something their rivals didn't. Whoever controls the water controls the desert, and whoever controls the desert controls the trade routes. The Nabataeans became obsessed with water. They carved cisterns into the rock. They built dams, channels, and pipes that collected every drop of rain that fell in the surrounding mountains and redirected it into the city. In a region that received less than 4 inches of rain per year, they created a water system sophisticated enough to supply a city of 30,000 people. No other civilization in the ancient world had solved this problem at this scale. But water alone didn't make Petra great. Trade did. Petra sat at the crossroads of 4 major ancient trade routes, connecting Arabia, Egypt, the Mediterranean, and Mesopotamia. Every caravan carrying spices from India, silk from China, incense from Arabia, or copper from Egypt passed through Nabataean territory, and the Nabataeans taxed every single one of them. At their peak, Petra controlled trade worth the equivalent of billions of dollars in today's money. Their merchants spoke multiple languages. Their diplomats maintained peace with Rome, Egypt, and the kingdoms of Arabia simultaneously. The city they built reflected this wealth. The famous treasury, Al-Khazneh, stands 40 meters tall, carved directly into a sandstone cliff, with a precision that would challenge modern engineers. The Romans, who conquered almost everything they encountered, were so impressed by Petra that they initially chose to negotiate rather than invade. Think about that. The most powerful military force in the ancient world decided it was better to do business with the Nabataeans than to fight them. So what went wrong? The answer, like most great collapses, wasn't a single catastrophe. It was a slow unraveling, pulled apart by forces the Nabataeans could not have predicted. In 106 AD, Rome finally annexed Petra, not through war, through politics. The last Nabataean king died without an heir, and Rome simply stepped in, almost without resistance. At first, life continued. Petra remained an important city under Roman rule. New temples were built. The population held steady. But then came the earthquake of 363 AD. A massive tremor devastated the city's water system. The very infrastructure that made Petra possible. Cisterns cracked. Channels collapsed. The elaborate network that had taken centuries to build was destroyed in minutes. And then came the final blow. The trade routes shifted. As sea trade became more reliable and profitable, the overland caravans that had made Petra rich began disappearing. Ships could carry more goods, faster, cheaper. The desert crossroads that had been Petra's greatest advantage became irrelevant overnight. Without trade, there was no wealth. Without wealth, there was no reason to rebuild the water system. Without water, there was no city. By the 7th century AD, Petra was largely abandoned. The 30,000 people who had once filled its streets had scattered. The rose-red city fell silent. For over 1,000 years, Petra existed only in rumor. Arab tribes in the region knew of the ruins, of course. They called it the Lost City and used its caves for shelter. But to the Western world, to Europe, to the emerging field of archaeology, Petra was a legend, a ghost, a city that might not even be real. That changed on August 22nd, 1812. A young Swiss explorer named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt had spent years traveling through the Middle East, disguised as an Arab merchant, learning Arabic, studying Islamic customs, all to gain access to places no European had seen in centuries. He had heard rumors of an extraordinary, ancient city hidden in the mountains of southern Jordan. To reach it, he needed a local guide, but no guide would take him there without a reason. So Burckhardt invented one. He told his guide he had made a vow to sacrifice a goat at the tomb of the prophet Aaron, a site located near the hidden city. The guide agreed to take him. They entered through the Siq, a narrow canyon barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side, stretching for over a kilometer. And then, as the canyon opened up, the treasury appeared. Burckhardt wrote in his journal that he was struck with awe, that nothing in his years of travel had prepared him for what he saw. He couldn't reveal his true purpose without risking his life, so he spent only a few hours in Petra before leaving. But his notes changed history. Within decades, Petra was the most famous archaeological site in the world. Today, Petra is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Nearly 1 million tourists visit every year. Archaeologists estimate that less than 15% of the city has been excavated. The vast majority of Petra still lies buried beneath the desert sand. We don't know what's down there. We don't know how many temples, tombs, or palaces remain undiscovered. We don't fully understand the Nabataean writing system. We don't know where their archives are, or if they survived. A civilization that built one of the ancient world's greatest cities left behind almost no written records of their own history. Which means the full story of Petra, who they really were, what they believed, what brought them joy and what kept them awake at night, may never be known. Some cities fall and leave everything behind. Petra fell and took its secrets with it. If you want to explore more forgotten civilizations and untold stories from history, subscribe to Uncharted Epochs. A new documentary drops every week. The past is waiting.